Is there anything more booktube than using a book to prop up my camera? Nah, I don't think so. Hey there! In true booktube fashion, I decided to follow in the tradition of the booktube newbie tag, which, if you're not familiar, is a series of questions that help you get to know me a little bit better and also what to expect from this channel. Without further ado, let's get into number one, which is, why did you start this channel? I started this channel so that my friends don't disown me. No, in all seriousness, I essentially rediscovered my love of reading over this past year. I jumped from having read only 8 books in 2024 to 50 in 2025. I'd always loved reading as a kid. It was a passion of mine, but as I grew older, I kind of fell off of it. And it wasn't until literally this past year that I finally got back into the swing of things. And I just didn't really have that many people to talk to about it. Most of my friends are not as into reading as I am. I was getting excited over all of these new books that I had been discovering. You know, I didn't want to end up boring all of them with just me yapping about stuff that they knew nothing about. This was a way for me to kind of redirect all of that energy into, like, instead of just me kind of walking around my home muttering to myself about how amazing or how terrible a book was, I can mutter into a camera instead. What are some fun and unique things you can bring to booktube? I don't know how super duper unique this is at the end of the day, but in general, I do like to read a pretty wide range of stuff, and I tend to gravitate towards creators who are similar. And so if you are interested in just getting exposed to a variety of different kinds of genres and categories of books, fiction and nonfiction, I think that this channel could be for you. In addition, I'm also based here in Canada. I live in Toronto, and I always get really excited as a Canadian whenever I come across other Canadians here on BookTube. So I would love to use this channel as an opportunity to spotlight some of the amazing authors and the amazing literature that we publish here in this country. I don't see it get talked about very often, or at least the authors and the books get talked about, but a lot of people don't know that they are from Canada or written by Canadian authors. So I just want to bring those authors more into the spotlight. Number 3 is, what are you most excited for about this new channel? So another part of my reasoning for starting this channel was just it is a fun creative outlet for me. I do work in the creative industry, but I also just really enjoy a lot of different kinds of creative hobbies. And video editing is something that I've kind of dabbled in on and off. But while I was editing my previous video, which if you haven't seen yet is my top 10 best books of 2025, I had a lot of fun. Like, I felt very creatively energized. So I want to continue to tap into that and use this channel as a way to stimulate my creativity and kind of utilize it in a different way. What I'm excited about is to just try different things and experiment a little bit with incorporating what I enjoy watching and trying out different ideas, and in general also kind of tapping into the booktube community, which I've been longtime lurker, first time participant, I guess you could say. So I'm looking forward to being a more active participant in the community and getting to chat about books with people that I otherwise wouldn't have been able to meet. Why do you love reading? I mean, what don't I love about reading, right? I mean, it gives you an opportunity to step into whole new worlds, and it activates your imagination. It also teaches you a lot and opens your eyes to new perspectives and gets you excited or provokes an emotional response. I don't know. I think, like, why do we enjoy art? It's just another way of tapping into beautiful, amazing creations by other human beings, and I just find it really fun. It's a very enjoyable activity to me. The other part of my enjoyment comes down to the fact that I really like the craft of writing. As someone who writes as a hobby, is fun for me to kind of actually analyze, you know, things like the specific kind of sentence structure that an author decided to use, or, you know, how they plot their stories. How do they write a certain character? How do they write their dialogue? And why do they use certain vocabulary over others? And all those sort of like just writing craft things is something that I'm also personally interested in, and I like seeing how that gets utilized by other authors. So I also really enjoy that part. Number 5, what book or series got you into reading? I'm not sure the exact book or series. I can list off a couple that I remember from my childhood. So I remember reading a series of unfortunate events. I remember reading a lot of the Animorphs books. I loved the choose your own adventure books where, they'll ask you like, where do you want to go next? And then if you want to go here, go to this page. If you want to go here, flip to this page. I thought that those were really, really cool. And then there is one particular series that also sticks in my mind, which I have not heard a single other person talk about. And it was called Twitches. So when I was growing up, I really, really enjoyed anything to do with like magic. I loved watching Charmed, which was an old TV show about 3 witches. There was a cartoon called Winx, which I think they have a reboot, a modern reboot, but I know nothing about that. I'm talking about the OG Winx. I really love that. For my anime fans out there, Cardcaptor Sakura, that continues to this day to have a very special place in my heart. So yeah, of course, an entire series about like twin witches who, I don't know, get up to shenanigans. I don't remember anything about the plot. I do remember that I was obsessed with it. As far as like what specifically got me into reading, I'm not sure. It was so long ago that I don't have any way of remembering. What questions would you ask your favorite booktubers? I'd be curious to hear how people, especially people who have done this for a bit of a longer period of time, how they stay inspired and prevent themselves from getting too burnt out or feeling too creatively stunted. I think it can be, with the way that YouTube works, there's a certain amount of consistency that you are kind of beholden to in order to build your audience. And while having like massive growth or a huge audience is really not my goal for this channel. It is still nice to have like some people around. And so I think finding that balance between like feeling creatively satisfied and also being able to keep people sticking around can be a little bit of challenge. And I'm curious to see, I guess, like how people manage that kind of balance. And that's a great segue into the next question, number 7, which is what challenges do you think starting a booktube channel will be the hardest to overcome? So I think in general, because my goal for this channel is not, like I'm not aiming to become a content creator full time. That's not the goal of this. Like I said, I want to use this as a creative outlet and also just as an opportunity to yap about books to someone other than my wall. I think the challenge for me actually will be preventing myself from getting a little bit too concerned about the numbers or getting too caught up in trying to like optimize everything for the maximum amount of engagement or viewership, because that feels much more like a rat race and just not really something I'm interested in. I personally took myself off of social media years ago. It's just not something that I engage anymore because I found that it was really negatively affecting my mental health. And so YouTube, in essence, now that I'm more actively participating in it, will be my only social media. And you'll notice that I don't have any other social links either. And a lot of booktubers do. Like they'll post on Instagram, they'll post on TikTok or whatnot. And that's kind of how a lot of them, I've noticed, is like they'll migrate over from there and kind of carry an audience with them. I'm starting from scratch here. I'm not trying to optimize like every single angle to gain viewership. I'm just here to have some fun. Number 8, when did you start reading? I don't remember. It was a long, long time ago. I was fortunate enough to grow up in an area where I was within walking distance of a lovely library that was well stocked and well run. So I spent a lot of time there as a kid. I read voraciously. In fact, you see these? Yeah, I actually ruined my vision because of reading. I had, as a child, a fairly early bedtime. So what I would do is I would hide under my covers with a flashlight and a book and read that way. And my flashlight, for whatever reason, constantly just was like low on battery. So the light itself was really dim too. I also had a dimmable lamp by my bedside, or an adjustable one, where I would turn it up just enough for me to be able to read the words and like nothing more, just so I wouldn't get caught too easily and be yelled at or anything like that for staying up. I really was reading under absolutely horrible lighting conditions. So now I'm pretty heavily nearsighted, which is not ideal. I needed glasses by the time I hit 5th grade, which was around like 10 or 11 years of age. There had to have been some time before you get to the point where you need glasses, where your vision is deteriorating. So long story short, I started reading when I was quite young. Next up, where do you read? I tend to read at home on my couch. I usually will have some music playing that's instrumental, like lo-fi, or some like chill piano or guitar music. I do also enjoy reading in coffee shops. I love that type of environment. Plus, I always like a cheeky little drink, whether that's coffee or a matcha or like a fun sparkling ice drink. That's always a nice bonus whenever I do take myself out to the coffee shop. And sometimes I will read on public transit as well. If I need to, if the trip I have to take to get somewhere is a little bit longer, then I will usually pull out my book to pass the time. And last but not least, what kind of books do you like to read? I am a literary fiction girly. If you look at my Storygraph, that and contemporary make the top 2 genres that I read. But I do tend to read widely, and I make a point to do so. I don't like sticking within one particular genre, and I'm a huge mood reader as well, so I generally like having variety within what I end up reading. Aside from literary fiction and contemporary, I will also read historical fiction or romance or sci-fi, fantasy. I even dipped my toe into horror this past year and it ended up being one of my favorite books of the year. I read nonfiction, I read memoirs, I read books about science and psychology and mental health. I read the occasional graphic novel and manga as well. So yeah, I try not to limit myself to anything in particular. There's very little that I'll say no to. Whether or not I'll get to it is highly dependent upon my mood. So that's it. Those are all of the questions for the BookTube newbie tag. Thank you so much for watching. If you've made it this far, I'd love it if you gave this video a like as well as subscribe to my channel. I have so many fun ideas for videos that I'm really excited about. Hope you're having a great 2026 so far, and I'll catch you later. Bye.